How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys Alex and Ryan. Today we're discussing Trea Turner. Now, Trea Turner is an interesting prospect on the free agent market right now. Obviously, one of the better infielders, one of the better shortstops you can go and get. 29 years old, looking for a long-term contract. And the Yankees have an opportunity to say, you know what? Let's put these shortstop, these infield issues behind us. Let's forget about IKF's blunders. Let's forget about all of the different players we've sifted through at shortstop to try and find a long-term solution. We still look at Oswald Peraza. We're going to discuss Anthony Volpe, how they play into the equation, what the scenario would have to look like to even make a realistic run at Trea Turner. I think that they're probably looking at him as an alternative to Aaron Judge, but, he was linked to the Yankees. The Yankees seem to be doing their due diligence across the board, whether it be, Brandon Nimmo, Trea Turner, Justin Verlander, big name free agents they can look at and have an understanding what the market looks like just in case Aaron Judge surprises them and goes elsewhere, which I think is a pretty decent strategy to have. You want to be aware of everything going on in case you get blindsided, which is a smart thing to do. But Trea Turner, obviously a very, very talented individual. Ryan has a ton of information on this player, what he could bring to the Yankees, why he'd be a stud, and what, the realistic nature of this would be. I think personally, it's a Judge alternative. In addition to Judge, might be a little bit of a big commitment financially. He wants I think an 8-year contract, which I don't think they're willing to spend. They'd have DJ, Cole, Stanton, Judge, and then Trea Turner on long-term deals. I just don't think that's feasible. So I think it's more of an alternative. But what do you think about Trea Turner and, the realistic possibility of this?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Trea Turner is a player that's going to require a massive financial investment. But the way I see it, and kind of looking at House quotes talking about how he's committed to winning, this and that. He's been very vocal about kind of this sentiment that he's going to do what it takes. And there have been some reports from some insiders regarding that. Hal was embarrassed by getting booed, especially during the Jeter ceremony. He apparently it's not something that didn't sit well with him. And not saying that bullying works, but it seems that maybe the New York pressure of the sentiment going against Hal is something that he may kind of rage spend a little bit and perhaps make another big splash outside of Aaron Judge. And I think Trea Turner is the type of player that you make that splash on. I'm not saying that there aren't other good players in the market, but look at what the Yankees don't do very well. They're not a very fast baseball team. They finished in the bottom 10 in terms of base running value. This is a team that's a little bit older. Or it came into last year very old as a very old position player team. A lot of their position players ranked below average in sprint speed, right? So we're talking about guys like Rizzo, Donaldson. Obviously your catchers are going to be slower guys, but still, looking at, Glaber isn't a very fast guy as well. IKF was a good base runner, but he had his moments where it wasn't pretty. Bader wasn't here for most of the year. So ultimately, how can you try to be an aggressive base running team without good base running? And Trea Turner provides that. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's a phenomenal athlete. Like, it is ridiculous. He's ranked in the 99th percentile in sprint speed. This is arguably the fastest player in baseball. This is a guy who can steal 30 plus bags for you in any given year, do so very efficiently. He's gotten caught 9 times. That's the most in his career, and that came in 2018 when he also stole 43 bases. Over the last 2 years, he's been caught 8 times, and he's stolen almost 60 bags at 59. So that's ridiculous to think about. He's a very efficient and very effective base runner. And then the offense to go with it. I mean, a 128 WRC plus is remarkable with that speed, a 6.3 wins above replacement. He hit 21 home runs, had 100 runs batted in, and 101 runs scored. You put him at the top of your lineup, he'll probably give you around a 350, 360 on base because of his high average. And if you want some power out of the top of your lineup, Turner's going to give you that. If you want, the best base runner in baseball, arguably, Trea Turner's also going to give you that. So this Yankee team could be a team, especially with bigger bases next year. We talked about Harrison Bader. We've talked about Oswald Peraza. We've talked about Anthony Volpe. These are guys who go out and steal 20-plus bags. Why not throw in a guy who, with expanded base, could maybe steal you 40 bases, right? This could be a team that leads the league in stolen bases and leads the league in home runs. And, I wager it like this. When's the last time the Yankees have had a hitter like a player as dynamic as Trea Turner in the base running department? I don't think I can remember one in this core specifically that's as dynamic of a base runner, has the speed and the base running aggression. And that's not even factoring the great play at shortstop, the great bat, all those other things. This team, there's one avenue the Yankees haven't discovered, or one stone the Yankees remain unturned, and that's becoming a dominant base running team. And I think Trea Turner provides an avenue for them to be that.
Absolutely. And you kind of see where he would slot in the batting order, primarily bats first, second, or third, 105 plate appearances in the first leadoff spot, 348 batting second, and 255 batting third last season. So obviously, he is accustomed to featuring in a few different roles, but you really want him at the top of your batting order. He gets on base a pretty solid amount, 371 OBP batting first leadoff, which is pretty damn impressive. So, you're looking at a player who is capable of changing the outlook of your infield, changing the outlook of your batting order. He is a stud, as you've mentioned multiple times. Only struck out at 18.5%, which was actually the highest since his 2019 season. He's a double-digit home run hitter since he's entered the league. And as you mentioned, he steals a shit ton of bases. And that's really what you're looking at in terms of athleticism, aggression. He can turn a single into a double. He can turn a single, if he's on second base, into a run. And the Yankees are going to have a lot more freedom this upcoming year with the band shift. You got Rizzo, a lot of his hits or a lot of his outs, pulled to that right side are going to be base hits. If you theoretically, if you had Rizzo batting third, and then even Turner at the fifth spot, you have someone on base there. That's a single. He's on second base. You do the math. He gets on base well, and he can turn something into nothing, or nothing into something rather. So definitely a really, really intriguing player here. But Ryan, when you're looking at him as a financial investment, 29 years old, how does Peraza, how do Volpe get into the mix here? If you sign Turner, I imagine you're trying to trade Peraza, get value, and then Volpe plays second base, right? Like one of those guys may have to go, or maybe Peraza goes and shifts over to third base, and you lock down that long term with him on the hot corner. But when you're looking at how Turner would fit into the mix here, is he a stopgap until Volpe is ready for shortstop? How would you see him kind of developing as this team gets some of these youth players up to speed?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to we'll talk about is, how he fits in with the young guys, right? So Turner is going to probably be signing to play shortstop, at least for the first few years of that deal. And Turner, I think, is a pretty solid defensive shortstop. I know his first month of the season, he wasn't very good. He had -4 outs above average to start the year, but he ended up with 0, meaning he collected 4 outs above average in the months following. And he mentioned in The Athletic kind of detailing that he started playing a little more in. His arm actually isn't that great, so he was playing very deep, trying to get more range, but he wasn't completing throws. So he played a little more in, utilizing his athleticism, utilizing his speed. He was able to complete more throws and still get to baseballs. Again, position players, especially at the shortstop position, they'll play a little more deep to try to add range. Turner doesn't really necessarily need to add range. He's already very good athletically. So he was still able to get to a lot of baseballs without sacrificing throws. So he could play the position for a couple of years. You look at Volpe, he plays second base for a little bit, move him to shortstop when Turner's no longer capable of playing the position. And I know that, for a lot of people, they're worried that Turner's going to be a guy that just relies on speed. This is a guy who's, a 300 hitter who's slugging 500 over his last 2 years, right? We can sit here and say a lot of his value does come from speed, but he's still probably going to be a 4-WAR player with his speed gone, just because he's such a good hitter. And, speed isn't something that ages so terribly. Like, how do I put this? You can be a pretty fast player at the age of 32, 33. It's more so towards the latter half of those 30s that your speed isn't so great. And then as for Peraza, the Yankees could keep him. They could. I guess I could see a situation where you maybe move Volpe or Peraza, whoever has a stronger arm, to third, and whoever has the weaker arm to second. But I could also see the Yankees trying to move Peraza for a starter if they sign Turner, because you can go out and not have to spend. Now, you spent money on Turner, and let's say Turner's coming with Aaron Judge. That's a lot of money tied into those two right there. You really can't afford to spend on many other positions. So if you can save money in the pitching department by completing a trade for a younger starter, perhaps a pre-arbitration guy, and make kind of like the Zach Gallen Jazz Chisholm trade, where it was a young infielder traded for a young pitcher. Both those guys are pre-arbitration guys. They were pretty good prospects. If the Yankees could pull off something like that, we could see the Yankees, kind of turn Peraza into, a player of a similar prospect status, but in the pitching department, and someone that they can nurture as a starter. If you add that starter, could you maybe move Herman and save a little bit of money there? There are a lot of contracts they can move in Donaldson and Hicks as well. Financially, I think the Yankees can make this make sense, right? I know it's a tall ask for the Yankees, but let's just look at it like this, right? This is a team that needs, that stable leadoff hitter, someone they can put at the top of the lineup, pencil at the one spot, right in front of Aaron Judge from here until however long Turner is still effective. And I think Trea Turner provides that, right? Think of the threat of Trea Turner at first base. I mean, we mentioned this with Bader, but I mean, Trea Turner, you absolutely have to pay attention to Trea Turner more than almost any other player in the sport. You will have to pay attention to Trea Turner. You can't just mail it in with sliders down and away to Aaron Judge, because Trea Turner will steal second base, and Aaron Judge hits sliders very well as well. So as a pitcher, are you going to pitch, you're going to throw a couple more fastballs to Aaron Judge, praying that you blow it by Judge and that Turner doesn't take second? Or do you just give Trea Turner second base and give Aaron Judge a chance to hit a single to the outfield and score a run? I mean, you're taking a guy in Trea Turner who can get on base at a pretty good clip. He's going to hit for a high average on base percentage. Even a little walk rate isn't great. Is always going to be pretty decent. And you put him at first base and you have him hit in front of Aaron Judge. The run scoring opportunities are endless. We're talking about potentially the best power hitter in baseball, hitting behind potentially the best leadoff guy in terms of speed and average and decent on base and good power. And also, I mean, he's a superstar. He's been a 6-WAR player now 2 years in a row. In 2020, he would have been a 6-WAR player if he played a full season. This is a guy who is an elite baseball player. He's got great power. His exit velocities, if you look at his max exit velocity, it lines up with guys like Paul Goldschmidt, Freddie Freeman, Bo Bichette, pretty good hitters, pretty good power hitters as well. And honestly, just get a superstar, right? Judge and Turner as a duo, I mean, that's a top duo in the league, right? And that's not even mentioning you're going to have Rizzo there. You're going to have Stanton there. You'll have, pretty good players mixed into the fold. You can go out and really put together a super team here and really put together a team that is, if you're the Houston Astros, and let's say you lose Justin Verlander, and then you watch Trea Turner go to the New York Yankees. I mean, what are you going to counter, right? A guy like Trea Turner plays a huge factor for the Yankees in the postseason if he's there. I mean, could you imagine those contact and speed skills for this team with pretty good power? They could turn the tide of the American League. They can really put it firmly in their territory that the Yankees are the team to beat if they go out and sign a guy like Trea Turner. And all it's going to cost them is money, right? I know that sounds like, oh, well, it's just $200 million. It's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But you have to make a move like this if you want to win. You have to be able to take a risk like this if you want to win. You have to be able to say Aaron Judge, Garrett Cole in their prime, Giancarlo Stanton still in his prime. We won't have this for very long. So these guys are going to start aging. All these guys are over the age of 30, right? When these guys are going to, over the next few years, some of these guys are going to start breaking down. I'm never going to have this level of talent, because when's the next time you're going to see the Yankees roster a top 3 or 4 pitcher in the league again, while also rostering the reigning AL MVP in their prime? You may not see that for a while. You have this opportunity now with young talent coming in, cost-controlled talent. You can go out and you can make Peraza the headliner of any deal. He's expendable. You've got other guys coming up: Dominguez, Spencer Jones, Austin Wells, Trey Sweeney. You have cost-controlled talent. Enough's enough. Sack up. Put your money where your mouth is, Hal. If you really are embarrassed about things, if you really are willing to do whatever it takes to not just bring back Judge, but to build a winner around Judge, Trea Turner's got to be a guy you put in pinstripes, because, I mean, we may never see Aaron Judge play this good again, and we can't keep pushing it down the road. We can't keep waiting for a big offseason down the road. This has to be your white whale. This has to be the guy you get. If you want to win a World Series, bring in Trea Turner.
Yeah, I mean, look, financially, I wrote something this morning on the Yankees' available salary space for this free agency period. If we're using the 2022, total active payroll that the Yankees did have, they were around 253 million, I believe. So, you're looking at a team that is staying in the first level of the surcharges in the luxury tax threshold, right? So the luxury tax threshold is $233 million this year. If you pass that 233 million by 20 to 40 million, there's a 12% surcharge. If you're 40 to 60 million beyond it, there's a 42.5% surcharge and 45% for each consecutive year after that. And then 60 million or more, there's a 60% surcharge. So you see Steve Cohen, he's like, screw that. I don't give a shit about money. I am spending as much as totally possible. So last year they had 265 million in active payroll. Excuse me about that. With 25.2 million allocated toward the injured list and 24 million on retained players. So the team's projected active payroll right now is 201.7 million after arbitration. That leaves about 63 million available for the team to spend in free agency if they're looking at they want to hover around a similar number as last year. But I think that Steinbrenner was conservative last year because he knew he was going to have to blow by it this year. And, you might as well go all in. So I went high at 40 million for Aaron Judge per season. It could be a little bit lower, but it'll probably be around that number. That would leave about $23 million for the Yankees to spend. But you have obviously Aaron Hicks, as you mentioned, and Josh Donaldson at about 30 $2.5 million combined. If you manage to offload those two guys, if you can say, you know what, let's trade Peraza, let's save that money and roll it over into, you could throw in those two guys. You have to take them, give us some prospects back. You have to take those big contracts, whatever. We can go out and sign another big time free agent. You could go and get Judge. You could go and get Judge and Trea Turner, Judge and Verlander. Verlander's probably going to be a little bit less years, but he wants $43.5 million. He wants a Max Scherzer deal. I think that's completely just ridiculous at 40 years old almost. So I don't think he's going to get that. It probably fallen a little bit cheaper, probably a lot of it cheaper than that. But Turner, obviously, you're looking at a $33 million per year player, most likely, somewhere around that margin. So, the Yankees, they have the money to do it. It just depends. Do they want to fly by the first tier of the luxury tax threshold? Do they want to lock down two guys for the next 7 to 8 years? We know that Cashman has really hurt this team doing that in the past with guys like Jacoby Ellsbury, but, Turner's a really reliable guy. In the same breath, you look at the games he's played over 122 games and for the last 5 years. And the only year he didn't do that was the COVID abbreviated season. So he's been very, very healthy, knock on wood, very, very reliable. And Judge has proven the same thing. So do you have to worry about these guys? I don't necessarily think so. As you mentioned, they bring a lot of different variables to this team that make them just elite by many, many accounts. And you can utilize your youth. At the end of the day, the Yankees are going to have to keep the cost down at some positions by utilizing youth. You have Ron Marinaccio. You have, if they keep Peraza, they probably have to offload him if they're trying to get rid of some big contracts. But maybe they manage to keep him. You have Volpe. You have Oswaldo Cabrera. Bader's on arbitration for this upcoming season. So you have cheap guys. Jose Trevino's dirt cheap. Your starting rotation's locked down. You don't have to worry about them. Some cheap guys on there too. Nestor Cortez is making like under $1 million. So this is a really good situation for the Yankees to be in. Financially, I think that Steinbrenner is going to put his money where his mouth is. He seems to be extremely aggressive, and he wants Judge, but he said that's not going to stop them from retaining players. Already went out. The second they caught wind that Rizzo was on the market for the Astros, they were like, no. And they signed him immediately. So you're seeing that like they are willing to get things done quickly. They're waiting for Judge patiently. But if there's somebody that really intrigues them and they have the right price point, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a move. So Trea Turner, while I do believe it's more of an alternative to Aaron Judge, I wouldn't rule anything out. You never know when Steinbrenner's going to say, you know what, screw this. Steve Cohen's making some noise. They're building a freaking massive scoreboard in Citi Field. They're about to go on a huge spending spree. We have to mirror that. We have to remain that competitive, financially aggressive team in New York. Otherwise, the Mets are going to get better than the Yankees. They have the money to overspend on players and just build a better team because of it. So that's what they're trying to do here. The Yankees have more than enough money to do the same thing. So really comes down to Steinbrenner and what he's willing to do. But guys, I'd love to hear your perspective below on Trea Turner, exactly how you think this may come to fruition. If you think it's even remotely possible, always happy to hear perspectives and narratives below in the YouTube comments. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.